Close your eyes now and let your breath find a slow, steady rhythm. Deeply in and slowly out. Allow the events of your day to drift away like leaves floating down a quiet stream, moving further and further from your mind, until there is only this moment, only the sound of my voice and the gentle stillness of the night. Tonight, we journey into a world of winter evenings and hushed conversations, into the towering glass buildings that shape the city skyline, where the golden glow of windows breaks the darkness of a December night. We are going to explore the complex human stories that unfold when the workday ends and the festive lights begin to twinkle. Stories of connections made in the quiet corners of crowded rooms, of lines blurring softly like watercolor paint on wet paper. Stories of the office holiday party and the secrets that are whispered there. Imagine, if you will, the city covered in a fresh, soft blanket of snow. The air outside is crisp and biting, carrying the scent of wood smoke and frost. But inside, high up on the 20th floor, the atmosphere is warm and heavy with anticipation. The usual hum of computers and printers has been replaced by the low murmur of jazz music, drifting through the open-plan space. The stark fluorescent lights have been dimmed, replaced by strings of amber fairy lights that drape across the ceiling tiles, casting long, dancing shadows against the walls. There is a unique magic to an office after hours, a transformation that feels almost dreamlike. The desks where deadlines are chased, the conference rooms where strategies are debated, they all soften under the influence of the holiday spirit. The rigid structures of the 9-to-5 world begin to dissolve, melting away like ice in a warm glass. It is in this suspended time, between the professional and the personal, that the heart sometimes wanders, seeking warmth in unexpected places. Let us drift into the first story of the evening, a story that took place in a building much like the one we are imagining, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking a glittering metropolis. The snow was falling harder now, pressing silent kisses against the thick glass, creating a cocoon of privacy for everyone inside. The party was in full swing, a sea of velvet dresses and loosened ties, the clinking of crystal flutes filled with effervescent champagne, the air perfumed with the scent of pine needles, cinnamon, and expensive cologne. In the center of the room, laughter rose and fell like a tide. But our attention is drawn away from the center, away from the loud toasts and the festive speeches. We drift toward the edge of the room, near the large window that looks out over the sleeping city. Here, standing slightly apart from the crowd, was a man named Elias. Elias was a man of routine, a quiet figure in the accounts department who kept his desk organized and his thoughts to himself. He had worked at the firm for 10 years, a steady, reliable presence, like the ticking of a grandfather clock. Tonight, however, the routine was broken. He held a glass of dark red wine in his hand, swirling the liquid gently, watching the crimson tide rise and fall against the crystal. He was watching the reflection of the room in the dark window pane, observing the ghost-like images of his colleagues celebrating behind him. And then, a reflection joined his. It was Clara, from the marketing division. Clara was vibrant, a splash of color in the grayscale world of the office. She wore a dress the color of midnight, shimmering softly as she moved. For years, Elias and Clara had shared nothing more than polite nods in the hallway, the occasional exchange of pleasantries while waiting for the elevator. Brief moments of acknowledgement that never went deeper than the surface. But tonight, the air was charged with something different. The holiday season has a way of making us reflect on our own loneliness, on the spaces in our lives that remain unfilled. And as the music slowed to a melancholy ballad, Clara stepped up beside him, gazing out at the snow-covered city. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" she whispered, her voice barely audible over the hum of the party. Elias turned to look at her, and for the first time, he didn't see the marketing director. He saw a woman with tired eyes and a gentle smile. Someone who, perhaps, was feeling the same weight of the winter night as he was. "It is," he replied softly. "Quiet. Peaceful." They stood there for a long moment, saying nothing, simply sharing the silence. In the busy, noisy world of the office, silence is a rare gift, and sharing it with someone creates a bond, a tiny, invisible thread connecting two souls. The party raged on behind them, a blur of motion and sound. But in their little corner by the window, time seemed to slow down, slowing, until it almost stopped. Elias noticed the way the fairy lights reflected in Clara's eyes, tiny stars caught in a dark sky. He noticed the way her hand tightened slightly around the stem of her glass, a sign of nervousness, or perhaps anticipation. They began to talk, not about spreadsheets or quarterly targets, but about the snow, about the holidays of their childhoods, about the strange feeling of being in the office when the work was done. The conversation flowed effortlessly, like a river finding its way to the sea. They spoke of their partners at home, mentioning them with a respectful, yet distant tone, as if they were discussing people they had known a long time ago. It is a subtle thing, the crossing of a line. It rarely happens with a grand gesture, but rather with a series of small, almost imperceptible steps. A shared laugh that lasts a second too long, a step closer to hear a whisper, a glance that holds a question. As the evening deepened, the distance between them shrank, physically and emotionally. The heat of the room seemed to press them together. The smell of her perfume, jasmine and vanilla, drifted to him, intoxicating and sweet. He found himself leaning in, drawn by a gravity he hadn't realized was there. "I've always admired your work," Clara said, her voice dropping to a murmur. "You're always so steady, so calm." "And I've always admired your energy," Elias confessed, the wine loosening the lock on his thoughts. "You light up the room." A compliment, simple and kind, yet in the context of the night, it felt like a secret exchanged in the dark. The air between them grew thick, heavy with the unspoken. They were two ships passing in the night, who had suddenly decided to drop anchor. The snow continued to fall outside, burying the city, burying the rules of the daylight world. In the reflection of the window, Elias saw his own hand move, almost of its own accord, to brush a stray piece of lint from Clara's shoulder. It was a small touch, innocent to any observer, but to them, it was electric, a spark jumping across a gap. She didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned slightly into the touch, her eyes locking with his. In that gaze, there was a recognition, a mutual understanding of the loneliness they both carried, and the sudden, overwhelming desire to set it down. even just for a moment. This is how it begins, not with malice, but with a need for connection. The office party, with its dim lights and free-flowing spirits, provides the stage, but the actors are simply human, flawed and seeking warmth. They stayed by the window as the party began to thin out, as colleagues grabbed their coats and headed for the elevators, calling out goodbyes. But Elias and Clara remained, anchored in their private bubble. The conversation turned to deeper things, dreams they had let go of, regrets that haunted them in the quiet hours of the morning. And as they talked, the reality of their lives outside this building seemed to fade. The partners waiting at home, the responsibilities, the vows, they all became abstract concepts, distant and muffled by the falling snow. Here, in the amber glow, there was only the two of them, and the magnetic pull of the present moment. Elias felt a heavy, drowsy comfort settling over him, the kind of comfort that comes before sleep or before a surrender. He looked at Clara, really looked at her, and wondered how he had walked past her for 10 years without seeing this, without feeling this. "The storm is getting worse," she said softly, looking out at the whiteout conditions. "Maybe we should wait it out." "Yes," Elias agreed, his voice low, vibrating in his chest. "We should wait." The suggestion hung in the air, laden with meaning. To wait it out meant to stay, to prolong this stolen time, to see where the current would take them. It was a decision made without a vote, a silent agreement signed in the space between breaths. As the room emptied further, the music shifted to something slower, a saxophone weeping a lonely melody. The shadows stretched longer across the carpet, wrapping around the desks and chairs, wrapping around Elias and Clara. They moved away from the window, away from the cold glass, and found a secluded seating area, a small arrangement of plush chairs tucked behind a row of tall filing cabinets. It was a hidden alcove, a secret garden within the corporate landscape. Here, the lights were even dimmer, barely aglow. They sat close, their knees almost touching. The rest of the office felt miles away, a different world entirely. In the quiet of the night, the conscience speaks in whispers, but desire speaks in a roar, and sometimes the roar drowns out everything else. Elias reached out, covering Clara's hand with his own. Her skin was warm, soft, contrasting with the chill of the window pane. She turned her hand over, interlacing her fingers with his. A simple gesture, holding hands, yet it signaled the crossing of the Rubicon. There was no going back to the polite nods in the hallway now. The dynamic had shifted irrevocably. They sat in silence, listening to the wind howl outside, grateful for the warmth, grateful for the touch, barely breathing as the weight of the moment settled upon them. The office, usually a place of logic and order, had become a sanctuary for chaos, for the unpredictable nature of the human heart. And as we leave Elias and Clara there, in the shadows of the filing cabinets, holding hands as the snow buries the city, we understand that this is only the beginning of the night, only the first layer of the story. The night is long, and there are many windows in this building, many stories unfolding in the golden light. Let us drift away from them now, floating gently down the hallway, past the empty cubicles, past the silent printers, moving deeper into the labyrinth of the office, deeper into the mystery of the holiday night, ready to discover what other secrets are hiding in the dark, waiting to be told. We drift now, moving away from the quiet intensity of that small office, leaving the door slightly ajar as the shadows lengthen. We float down the corridor, the industrial carpet softening our footsteps, muffling the world. The air here is cooler, recycled and still, carrying the faint, distant hum of the building's ventilation system, like the slow, rhythmic breathing of a sleeping giant. To our left, the rows of empty cubicles stand like silent sentinels, their screens dark, their surfaces cluttered with the remnants of the workday. Coffee mugs left half full, stacks of paper waiting for Monday morning. But tonight is not about Monday. Tonight is about the space in between, the suspended reality of the holiday night. We move toward the source of a soft, golden glow spilling out from the main conference room, the heart of the party. The sound of music reaches us first, not loud, but a low, thrumming vibration, a jazz standard playing softly, the notes floating like smoke through the hallway. We glide through the open double doors, entering the warmth. The room has been transformed. The harsh fluorescent lights are dimmed, replaced by strings of twinkling fairy lights draped over the whiteboards, reflecting in the glass walls like distant stars. Here, amidst the gentle clinking of glassware and the murmur of low conversation, we find another story unfolding. Near the edge of the room, by the floor-to-ceiling windows that overlook the snowy city, Julian stands alone, one hand in his pocket, the other holding a tumbler of amber liquid that catches the festive light. He is looking out at the falling snow, watching the flakes dance against the glass. But his attention is not on the weather. His focus is directed, subtly, magnetically, toward the reflection in the window, watching the woman standing just a few feet behind him, Elena. She is laughing at something a colleague has said. A soft, melodic sound that seems to cut through the ambient noise, reaching Julian's ears as if it were whispered directly to him. They have worked side by side for 5 years, sharing coffees, sharing deadlines, sharing the quiet camaraderie of late nights at the office. But tonight, the boundaries are blurring, melting like the frost on the window pane. Elena turns, sensing his gaze, sensing the pull. She excuses herself from the group, her movements slow and deliberate, drifting toward the window, toward Julian. She steps up beside him, close enough to feel the warmth radiating from his suit jacket, but not touching. Not yet. The space between them is charged, electric, filled with 5 years of unspoken words. "It's really coming down out there," she says softly, her voice barely rising above a whisper. Julian nods, turning to look at her. Really look at her. In the dim light, the office context fades away. She is not the project manager. He is not the analyst. They are simply 2 souls standing on the precipice of something vast. "It's beautiful," he replies, and his eyes do not leave her face. The implication hangs in the air, heavy and sweet like the scent of pine that fills the room. He shifts his weight, leaning slightly closer. The reflection in the glass shows them standing together, a portrait of a couple that exists only in the mirror world, only in the safety of the night. We watch as his hand moves, almost imperceptibly, resting on the railing of the window ledge, inches from hers. Her fingers uncurl, relaxing, moving a fraction of an inch closer to his. It is a dance of millimeters, a silent negotiation of permission and desire. The party behind them fades into a blur of colour and sound, leaving them isolated in their own private universe, wrapped in the golden haze of the holiday lights. Let us leave them in that delicate moment of almost touching, that exquisite tension where the heart races and time stands still. We drift away, moving past the makeshift bar, past the laughter that feels miles away, and we find ourselves moving toward the back of the room, toward the heavy oak door of the executive suite. The door is closed, but not locked. We slip through, into a room that smells of leather and old books, of expensive cologne and rain. The noise of the party is instantly silenced here, replaced by the ticking of a grandfather clock, steady, rhythmic, inevitable. Sitting on the edge of a large mahogany desk is Sarah. She has kicked off her heels, her feet resting on the plush rug. She holds a glass of champagne, the bubbles rising in a slow, mesmerizing column. Across from her, sitting in the leather armchair usually reserved for clients, is Marcus, his tie loosened, his jacket draped over the chair behind him. They are not speaking. They are simply existing in the same space, comfortable in the silence that spans decades of history. They are both married to other people, lives built on foundations of stability and routine. But here, in the dim light of the office lamp, they are transported back to a time when they were young associates, when the world was wide open. Marcus leans forward, resting his elbows on his knees, his hands clasped together. He looks at Sarah with a gaze that is both weary and tender, a look that carries the weight of 1,000 what-ifs. "Do you remember the party of '98? He asks, his voice low, rumbling in the quiet room. Sarah smiles, a sad, nostalgic curving of her lips. She traces the rim of her glass with a fingertip. "I remember," she whispers. "It snowed that night too." The memory hangs between them, a ghost of a past life. The air in the room feels thick, heavy with the knowledge of paths not taken, and the dangerous allure of the path that lies before them tonight. Marcus stands up slowly, the leather of the chair creaking softly. He walks to the window, looking out at the same city, the same snow, but seeing only the reflection of the past. Sarah sets her glass down on the desk, the sound of crystal on wood echoing softly. She stands, moving toward him, drawn by a gravity she has resisted for years. She stops just behind him, close enough to smell the cedar and spice of him, close enough to hear the intake of his breath. "We shouldn't," she breathes, the words fragile, barely audible. "I know," Marcus replies, turning to face her. "But we always say that." He reaches out, his hand hovering for a moment before gently tucking a stray lock of hair behind her ear. His fingers brush against her cheek, warm and rough against her cool skin. It is a touch of familiarity, of longing, of a secret history written in the stolen moments of office life. Her eyes flutter closed, leaning into his touch, surrendering to the quiet chaos of the night. The grandfather clock chimes the hour, a deep, resonant sound that vibrates through the floorboards, marking the passage of time. But in this room, time feels irrelevant, looped, caught in the amber of the moment. We float backwards, retreating from their intimacy, respecting the sanctity of their shared silence. We drift back out into the hallway, the air feeling cooler now. We move toward the stairwell, the heavy fire door opening with a hushed sigh. The stairwell is a vertical tunnel of concrete and steel, echoing and cold. But down on the landing between the 4th and 5th floors, huddled in the corner away from the prying eyes of the elevators, are 2 figures, captured in the stark industrial light. A young man, tie undone, leaning against the concrete wall, and a woman, wrapped in a shawl, standing before him. There is an urgency here, a different energy than the slow burn of the executive suite. They are speaking in hushed tones, words tumbling over one another, breathless, desperate. "No one saw us leave," he says, his voice echoing slightly in the stairwell. "Are you sure?" she asks, looking up at the landing above, her eyes wide, reflecting the fear and the thrill of the transgression. He nods, reaching out to take her hands, pulling her slightly closer. "Just for a minute," he promises. "Just a minute to breathe." But it is not breath they are seeking. It is the suspension of rules, the thrill of the forbidden. The stairwell, usually a place of transit, of fire drills and rushing feet, has become a confessional, a hiding place. The cold concrete walls absorb their secrets, keeping them safe within the brutalist architecture. We watch as he leans in, their foreheads touching, a gesture of intimacy that speaks of a hidden relationship, perhaps months in the making, concealed beneath professional emails and polite nods in the break room. Here, in the echo chamber of the stairwell, the mask drops. The weight of the deception is heavy, but the pull of the connection is stronger. The sound of a door opening somewhere floors above freezes them. They pull apart instantly, eyes wide, listening to the footsteps echoing far away, then fading. The tension returns, but it is heightened now, sharpened by the near discovery. They look at each other, a silent agreement passing between them, a shared conspiracy against the world. We leave them there, in the cold embrace of the stairwell, suspended between floors, between lives. And we continue our descent, drifting down, down, toward the lobby, where the night watchman sits, unaware of the dramas unfolding in the towers above, unaware of the hearts breaking and mending in the dark. The building is a hive of stories, a labyrinth of desires, and as we move through the shadows, we feel the heavy, velvet blanket of the night wrapping tighter around the office, holding everything in, keeping the secrets safe until the morning sun turns everything back to logic, back to order. But for now, the night is still young, and there are more doors to open, more shadows to explore, more whispers waiting to be heard in the silence. The lobby floor is a vast expanse of polished marble, reflecting the dim amber glow of the security lights overhead. A quiet lake of stone that catches the shadows of the night. The air down here is cooler, distinct from the heated, frantic energy of the floors above. It carries the scent of floor wax and the faint, crisp draft of the winter air seeping in through the revolving doors. The night watchman shifts in his chair, the fabric of his uniform rustling softly in the stillness. He looks at a bank of monitors, screens that cycle through empty hallways, silent break rooms, and the stairwells where we just left those 2 figures suspended in their secret. But on the screen, they are just grainy shadows, ghosts in the machine, hardly real at all. We drift past the security desk, moving with the ease of smoke, toward the heavy glass of the entrance. Beyond the doors, the city is waiting. The snow has begun to fall in earnest now, large, soft flakes that tumble from the charcoal sky like feathers, dampening the sound of the traffic, muffling the world outside. One by one, the partygoers begin to trickle out of the elevators, the doors sliding open with a soft chime that echoes in the cavernous lobby. They step out, adjusting coats, wrapping scarves tighter around their necks, their faces flushed from the heat of the party, from the wine, from the adrenaline of conversations that went a little too deep. We watch them leave, these keepers of secrets. They push through the revolving doors, transitioning from the golden, artificial warmth of the office tower into the blue, biting reality of the December night. Their breath plumes in the air, white clouds of vapour that rise and vanish in seconds, just like the whispers shared in the dark corners upstairs. Some hail taxis, lifting hands into the falling snow, the yellow cabs pulling over with a hiss of tyres on wet pavement. Others walk toward the subway, heads ducked low against the wind, solitary figures moving through the urban canyon. And among them are those who carry the weight of what happened tonight, the weight of a hand that lingered too long, a glance that promised too much, a kiss stolen in the copy room or the stairwell. They sit in the back of cabs, watching the city lights blur past the rain-streaked windows, streaks of red and white smearing together like oil paint. The adrenaline is fading now, replaced by a heavy, contemplative silence. The reality of their other lives begins to seep back in. The spouses waiting at home, the routines, the order. But for this ride, in the quiet cocoon of the car, they hold on to the memory of the transgression, turning it over in their minds like a smooth, dark stone. It is a strange thing, how a building made of glass and steel, a place of spreadsheets and deadlines, can become a vessel for such raw, human complexity. How the sharp angles of the office soften under the influence of the night, becoming a landscape of desire and regret. We drift back inside now, rising up through the atrium, leaving the cold street behind. We float upward, past the silent floors, past the darkened conference rooms where chairs sit empty and attentive around mahogany tables, waiting for the morning meeting that feels a lifetime away. We return to the site of the party, but the room has changed. The music has stopped. The laughter has drained away, leaving only the physical remnants of the celebration. The overhead lights have been dimmed to a low hum, shimmering on the tinsel that still hangs from the ceiling tiles, glistening like silver rain frozen in time. The desks are shadowed islands in a sea of carpet, cluttered with the debris of the festivities. Plastic cups half full of punch, crumpled napkins, a stray ribbon distinct against the beige of a computer monitor. The air here is thick and still, heavy with the scent of pine, stale perfume, and the lingering warmth of bodies that have long since departed. It is peaceful here now, in the aftermath. The chaos of the social manoeuvring, the tension of the hidden affairs, it is all settled, falling like dust to the floor. The office is reclaiming its true nature. The silence is profound, not an empty silence, but a heavy, velvet silence that absorbs everything. It wraps around the filing cabinets, holding the secrets of the business and the secrets of the heart with equal indifference. A cleaning crew will come later, in the deepest hours of the morning, moving quietly with their carts and cloths. They will wipe away the rings of wine from the desks. They will sweep up the pine needles and the glitter. They will empty the bins filled with evidence of the night's indulgences. They will reset the stage, restoring the symmetry,
the logic, the sterile perfection of the workspace.
By the time the sun rises, painting the skyline in pale greys and pinks, there will be no trace of the stolen moments, no sign of the hands that touched in the dark. It will all be erased, clean and ready for the day. But we are not there yet. We are still deep in the night, deep in the comfort of the shadows. We move to the window, looking out from the high floor. The city spreads out below us, a vast grid of glowing amber and white, breathing slowly. The snow continues to fall, a relentless, gentle curtain that softens the hard edges of the skyscrapers. It covers the streets, the cars, the rooftops, blanketing everything in a layer of pure, unblemished white. It is a forgiveness, this snow, a covering for all the mistakes and the missteps. It hides the tracks. It quiets the noise, deeper and deeper. The view from here is hypnotic, the flakes swirling in the updrafts against the glass, dancing in the silence before descending to the earth. You can feel the rhythm of the city slowing down, the pulse dropping. Lights in the apartment buildings across the way flickering out one by one as people surrender to sleep, as they let go of their stories. And you, too, are part of this great slowing down. The drama of the office, the tangled webs of the people we watched, they are far away now, fading into the background of your mind. They are just stories, drifting away like smoke, leaving you untouched, leaving you safe in your own stillness. There is no need to judge them, no need to resolve their complications. We simply observe, and then we let go. We let go of the stairwell, let go of the lobby, let go of the taxis driving into the dark. The office is just a shell now, a sleeping giant of steel and concrete, resting under the winter sky. The secrets are locked away, safe until morning, safe in the dark. Feel the heaviness of the atmosphere, the way the silence presses gently against you, like a warm, weighted blanket. The air is still, the world is paused. There is nothing left to do, nothing left to see. The corridors are empty, the doors are closed, the computers are dark. The narrative has ended, and only the peace remains. Imagine the snow piling up on the window ledge, inch by inch, soft and cold and quiet, muffling the entire universe, dampening every thought, every worry, turning the world into a soft, white blur. The darkness of the room is comforting, a protective embrace. You are floating here, suspended in the quiet, high above the world, safe, warm, and deeply, deeply tired. The night is long, and it belongs to you now. The stories have faded, the voices are gone. There is only the rhythm of your own breathing, slow and steady, matching the slow, steady fall of the snow. Everything is resolved in the quiet. Everything is at rest. Everything is asleep, drifting down into the velvet dark, deeper and deeper into the silence. Good night.